Hello everybody, I'm Tom Morrill, President of the Peach Regional Chamber of Commerce, and my guest today is Dr. Daryl Fineran, Superintendent of the Peach County Schools. We welcome you, Dr. Fineran, and I'm glad you can be with us today.
Thank you, Tom.
As we get started, we know that a lot of you have one thing on your mind, and that is the ESPLOST and the building of the new high school. So we wanted to take this opportunity to talk to Dr. Fineran about that, and so we'll just break in and start out with that.
Thank you, Tom. We have an educational special purpose local option sales tax, ESPLOST, that we have in place right now that ends next December. And we've had that in place for several years. We, like 157 out of 159 counties in the state of Georgia, have an ESPLOST that we use to fund construction, remodeling. You can buy textbooks, e-books, buses, those type of things. The ESPLOST is used to offset and keep from raising property taxes for landowners, homeowners, that type of thing. Can't use it to pay salaries of teachers, but you can use it for construction, repairing roofs, HVAC systems, and those type of things. In our particular county, Peach County, we're very fortunate to have an interstate that comes through, and we return on our revenue. We get about $300,000 a month, and sometimes we have a little higher than that, which comes about $3.6 million. And we operate, that goes into our funding that we use to fund our schools and to do maintenance and repairs and those type of things. You also use that money if you need to do major capital renovations, or you need to do build new schools and that type of thing. Hunt Elementary and K Road were built with the ESPLOST that was prior to this one. That's how those two schools were built. We're still paying off some bonds with that, but that will all be paid off by December. But that's an ESPLOST is a tax, again, that everyone pays, and you pay it when you purchase goods and services in the county. And the estimate, in a county like ours with an interstate, is 35 to 40% is paid by people that pass through the county or visit or shop in that particular county. Just like if we were to go to Bibb or Houston or Dooley and spend money, at a gas station or whatever to buy things, we're actually helping them to build their new schools and construction and that type of thing. But the ESPLOST, the current ESPLOST, again, expires in December, and it is on the ballot now to vote on. And actually, early voting has already started on Monday, and will continue to the March 13th with the final election day on March 17th. But this is not a new tax, it's a continuation of the penny. Your taxes won't go up, in other words, when you buy things, but we're in the same boat as the city government and the county government that has to have what they call LOST, local option sales tax, in order to function, to keep property taxes down.
Now, I understand one of the projects that you want to at least partially pay for with the ESPLOST is a new high school for Peach County. Can you tell us about that?
Well, in this bond referendum that you will be voting on, is very specific in order and explicitly states that the majority of the funding will be used to build a new comprehensive high school facility with up-to-date science and vocational labs, course room, art rooms, band rooms, all the things that you have in a new building that's up to code, all your handicap accessibilities, all your lighting, everything that's current, your science labs, the right sizes, classrooms, the correct sizes, all those type of things. Generally designed, to last another 50 or 60 years. That would be the major bulk of that money. If you earned around $18 million, which we should with that ESPLOST, would go toward that, along building a new high school, along with state entitlement. And state entitlement money is they give us quite a bit. We've earned quite a bit for new construction. We've earned anywhere from 13.5 to 16 million, and that amount varies because they look at your enrollment when you apply, and they take the last 4 years, and then it also depends on what your FTE count is. If you're,
and that's the count per
yes,
number of students in
Right.
the school
The
there.
more students you have, the more money you earn.
Okay.
And it hurts, it gets you both ways. If you're adding students, you're gonna earn more money, and if you're losing students, you're gonna lose some money. And then it also depends on what buildings you have in your system and how much entitlement you earn. Well, basically, the easiest explanation for me has always been when I talk to my two schools that are the newest, High Elementary and K Road, that are a couple years old. In just a few years, they'll start earning money for HVAC renovations and those type things. We'll actually start earning dollars from the state for renovations on those buildings. A good example of how entitlement works, the old Hunt Elementary that you're familiar with is
It's currently not being used.
That's right. We don't earn any money on that. In other words, we've gotten all our entitlement from the state, and the state has said, we don't want kids in there, so you don't earn any money for it. So that's kind of how the entitlement thing does. Now, the legislature appropriates it every year. That's how people build new schools. There's no way to build in your budget an infrastructure to build new facilities, and this is a way that you do to build new facilities or to renovate existing facilities.
So it's kind of like an accumulated depreciation in that a building that's obsolete no longer gets funded, and the older it gets, the less funds you get.
Right. And likewise, as you get a new, their logic is, and it's actually a good one, is you build a new building, and eventually in 10 years you start earning money again to build new buildings. So again, the whole process is designed, the state is screaming at you, they want you to do new construction. In other words, we'll pay you $84 a square foot for new construction, but we'll give you $10 a square foot to renovate.
I see.
Yes, sir.
Now, you've spoken with several architects. What do you think the cost estimate of the new high school will be?
Well, they built Marion County over here for $122 a square foot.
And that was in the last year or
Last couple
so?
of years, and everybody always gives that. I think you're looking more of 130, 135 square foot when you start looking at furnishings and everything, down to a turnkey project and getting everything that you need in the high school, including desk and equipment and those type of things.
So
Now,
what does that?
it always depends on what you put in the building. They'll tell you how many classrooms you have to have based on the size, and then they'll tell you how many special ed classrooms you have to have, the chorus room, and the media, the size of your library and media center that we call them now. We don't call them libraries anymore. All those type of things that the state will dictate that, and down to what you have in that building. But when you get a new building, you get all the technology infrastructure that you're supposed to have. And of course, you get all the safeguards and the security systems, and you get all the state-of-the-art equipment to start with, and you get a design that's designed to supervise and safe for kids. And you got a lot of different things that you get when you build a new school. And likewise, like I said, the state we only earn, to give you an example, we earn $3.5 million if we were to renovate the current high school, and you'd have to come up with the rest of it with local money, with property taxes, or an ESPLOST, or a combination of all. But they'll give you close to 13.5 to 16 million, depending on when you apply for new construction. So basically, they want you at a certain point. Now, your buildings have to earn that right, and ours have, based on the age and appreciation of where they are for you to do new construction. They don't let you just take a new school and build a new school. But
Well, do you have any idea how many square feet will be needed for the new school at this point?
I always go by classroom sizes and what you earn, and if you start talking about 50 classrooms, and then those classrooms need special ed and all the different things, and you do it by size of students. And when you come up with the size of students, if we build for growth, we have 971 students now, and you always build for growth. So we build for 1,100 or 1,200 students, then that dictates your square footage. Because all those things are going to come into place. Now, my suggestion is do the cafetoriums that they do now, where you have the stage and the lunchroom, and you got to have the gym and all those type things, and get all the things that you need for art and course and those things, and you get all the special ed classrooms and everything that you need for that.
Are you comfortable that the amount that we will get from the state and from the ESPLOST will cover the cost of the high school?
I think we'll be pretty close. I think pretty close. And again, it's like you and your wife build a house or whatever, it is what you decide ultimately to put into it in the planning process and what all that encompasses. Because when you do build new construction, you're allowed to build the parking areas and the baseball fields and the softball fields and the tennis courts and the soccer field and the practice fields for football and all those type of things. That's one of the advantages of new construction over renovated. They don't give you any money to do any of that when you renovate. It's inside your walls. And
Of school property.
That's right. That's right.
I see. And this ESPLOST will be on March 17th is the final vote, and it's actually a referendum, I guess.
It is. It's the only thing on the ballot, and it is currently, you can vote now, early voting, and then I think that stops March 13th, and then the election day, official, the big day, of course, is March 17th. But it's there's a lot of reasons, to go ahead and do this is not unusual to have a ballot in March or to have the other thing on the ballot. You go to Upson County, they're doing theirs in March right now. Sumter is doing theirs. The reason is if you want to have a seamless transition, it would cost us $300,000 a month to wait for it if we waited till November, and that we would not have revenue coming in. And also, we don't know what's going to happen with the excise tax thing. If you get your election in for July 1st, whatever they do, and we pretty much got a good handle on what's going to happen, with school systems and all in terms of the tax on a gallon of gas. It's going through the legislature right now, but if you get it voted in now, you're good for the length of this one, which ends in December, and also the next 5 years.
I see. I see. Just a question that everybody is asking is what will be done with the old building if, in fact, the new high school is built?
And those are legitimate questions, and knowing a lot of the history with vacant buildings and the hospital moving and those type of things, I certainly understand it. Don't have all the answers, but remember, we're in that building for a minimum of 5 more years. When you build it, and I think a lot of people don't understand that, when you build a high school, this is a 5-year process. This is just the first part, getting the resolution passed. Then you have to do a long planning process before with a lot of stakeholder input, everybody, including the staffs at the high school and the principals, and you develop and you hire an architect and you do all those type things, and then a minimum of 2 years in the build process, and it could take longer. So it's a 5-year process. The athletic fields we would still use, the stadium, Anderson Stadium, as well as the athletic fields will be used by the middle school who don't have athletic fields. We still use the auditorium. But legitimate questions, in the school business, we don't want to have vacant buildings. First of all, they're hard to maintain, and vandalism and all those type of things. We want them either demoed or back on the tax rolls in some way. And we're actually in the process of one of our buildings trying to get it, seeing if there's any interest in anybody purchasing it. And if there is, we'll advertise it for sale and hopefully get bids on it and get it back on the tax rolls. But it's a question I really don't know all the answer. There's a lot of things you can do. I mean, the last place I was in Wayne County, they took Jessup Elementary and made it into instead of spending a couple $1 million on a new police facility, they used it for the Boys and Girls Club, and the police department got a facility, and they did locally, they had some money saved up and were able to get a great new police station, based out of one of the wings and that type of thing. I also sold them before, put them up for sale, and the church buy them and use them. So, but like I said, you don't want to be in the business of vacant buildings. The older buildings prior to 1970, sometimes have asbestos.
They had an asbestos.
And you have to deal with that removal. We're fortunate that wouldn't happen at the high school, but it does happen in older buildings. But like I said, it is certainly understand that, but I don't give definitive answers about something. There's a long time to that process before we would have a vacant building, on the high school campus.
You mentioned it would probably be 5 years before the new building is built. Would you wait until the money is mostly brought in and accumulated before you start the building, or will you issue revenue bonds?
Daryl Fineran, this is just Daryl Fineran's personal. I like to have a little bit more money and comfort in ESPLOST revenue, in before the process starts. But you would eventually have to issue bonds to do that process. A lot of people don't understand what you refer to, the entitlement, the state funds. The way it basically works is you're out there, they've poured the foundation, they've plumbed it and that type of thing. The general contractor wants to get paid. Well, you've got to pay, and then your architect signs off for it. You send it into the state, and the state's okay. We'll send you a check for $800,000 of your entitlement. Well, it may have cost $2 million at that point, but they don't just hand you a check and say, go build a new high school.
So that their funding lags behind.
That's correct.
Okay.
So you have to have a little money in the bank to be doing the whole process. And in the end, they'll actually hold 10% till you're completely satisfied with every paint drop on the wall and everything like that. And you do the final sign off. Then the state will release their last 10%. So it's a laggy process. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think we're trying to build a high school next week. This is just the first step. If you don't have a resolution and have the income to do something, you don't build a new high school. It's just the first part. And I'm realistic. I think architects can tell you they can do it faster, but it's probably about a 5-year process.
And what is the normal cost overrun? My wife and I built a home in the mountains, and our cost overrun was about 400%.
Well, so I can tell you this. I've only done hard bid building of schools. That means when you have people, you hire an architect, you put out all the specs, you have a general contractor, and they bid it out, and you open bids in public, and you go with the lowest bid, and it's your architect's responsibility. I've never done construction management, but the ones I've built, I've never had a change order or gone over budget. So, and there's not too many people that say that, but if you get a good architect and you get a board that, you start coming in and say, I want to change this, I want the buses coming in the front, not the back and all of that, then they got you. And you're going
that's
to have
where the change orders come in.
But they will have it down to every nail, the light switch and everything, you hold them to it, and it's turnkey down to the water being turned on the day you get in there. And that's, to me, is the best way to do it, because you do sealed bids and you open it up, and that's the way I think it's the best way. I think you get the big, bang for your buck. There's people that like the other construction management. I like the process of, low person, and you go with the lowest price and that type of thing.
A question that I need to ask you is about academic performance. We've recently had 2 new schools built, and one of them is not performing at all very well academically, and the other is certainly not in the top half of the state. What is your plan for increasing the academic performance of our schools and better educating our children?
Well, I got here in July 1st, I guess was my official day, and a lot of things are in place for this school year, personnel as well as budget and those type of things, and everybody, when they're hired as superintendent, we have lofty dreams and that type of thing, but ultimately it's my responsibility from July 1st on, the academic performance of the school system. I think our biggest thing to realize is ultimately you're as good as the people that you have, and management is huge and teachers are huge, and ultimately that's the biggest factor on, if you've had children in school, I have children in school, is getting quality people and giving them an opportunity to administrators to run the schools, and also to get quality people and keeping them. Certainly understand where we are academically, although I do think that when test scores come out for this calendar year, which are always laggy, probably next summer at best, I think you'll see a rise in test scores. We do have one, Byron Middle School is way above the state average in a lot of respects. It's like an 80 something CCRPI, which is very good. And Byron Elementary did not go up, but they're in the high 70s on there. And again, we all need to show improvement. And ultimately, I think the biggest thing is in the short term, getting in here has been us to really analyze our data, and that's what a lot of, down to the individual kids. So as we develop the data teams and those type of things, the county level people, making sure that the school level is doing what they're supposed to, and that part of it down to the individual teacher, where every teacher is responsible for the kids they teach and their performance. And that's what most systems have done the last 10 or 15 years. I do think we were lagging a lot in that, but I think we've addressed that, and you know, the accountability piece is there, and the accountability piece for the principal, you know, over the building, and the teacher in the classroom over those kids. We've got to keep making strides. We need to offer more vocational classes, as we've talked about, in careers and welding and that type of thing, and more dual enrollment if we can't afford a teacher. Then more dual enrollment opportunities, vocational wise,
Central Georgia
State, or anybody else that we can get that's interested. One of the big factors of the dual enrollment and those type of things, a lot of times our kids can't get there. And we also have 7-period days, so you got travel time. And also the best case scenario is when we have the colleges coming to us, professors coming there, and we have those opportunities. So we've got to increase more of those opportunities, and that's in the planning stage. And we should have welding. I'm going to have welding somehow, and finances somehow next year.
We are quite excited as a chamber, because that was part of our education initiative for 2015.
Sure.
Was to bring back the vocational skill trades, especially those listed, those 8 or 9 that are listed on Go Bill Georgia. And we see that to be a real key for bringing in quality workers for industry in the future.
And we're getting kids right now signing up for classes and all, and they have to pass a lot of people don't understand that they do have to pass an entrance exam, even for technical school and all those type of things. And we're encouraging more kids to take that exam so that they do have the opportunity, even if it's not this year and they decide next year they want to do it, they do have that opportunity.
Sure.
And that's a big factor. That's going to be one of our initiatives. I want more people tested so there's more of a pool and more kids can make a decision, even if it's not this year. Of course, they have to have an SAT or an ACT score to dual enroll, you know, in the academic courses with the colleges. But the vocational classes, they also do have to pass an entrance type exam, and then we'll work with them to get them up if they don't make it or that type of thing. But the key is they have to show they're interested in those classes. And you know, if we can get kids that are interested in you know, criminology or different things, we'll get the teachers there. And they're committed to getting the Central Georgia is committed, and they keep changing their names, so I keep saying Central
You
Georgia.
understand.
So I forget sometimes, but we've got to do a better job with that, and we've got to do a better job of, you know, in every area. And you know, we got to earn our stripes every day, you know, like they used to say. But you know, I think we're making some strides, and time will tell. But I think everybody's on point right now and understands that we've got to produce and do a better job.
Well, as we conclude this interview, is there anything that you would like to add?
Well, I think that the ESPLOST, of course, is you know, a huge economic turn, I think, for the county. And of course, that's pending, and that's, as you know, as a person who's financially responsible for the $30 million budget and 463, I think, employees and, you know, 3,600 students, is, I think it's, you know, pivotal for a community and how they respond to growth and what they want. You know, I think you send a strong message, and like I said, you know, what you want in a county, if you want businesses to come, or you want people to stay, or you want people to decide to live here, and you have to have a good educational system, and you have to have good facilities, and you have to have a good hospital, and I think you have to have a good rec. I think, you know, rec department, I think those 3 things that are huge is everything. Having lived in towns like Jessup and Kingsland and Statesboro and Claxton, I think I understand that, but I think we are in a pivotal situation here, you know, in terms of getting economic growth and those type of things. If we can, you know, get facilities that we need and attract people to live here and pay taxes, and we need young folks with kids that stay here and pay taxes, so as we get older, they can pay some taxes too, and raise their kids here and do business in Peach County. I just think it's huge, and it always works out that way. You know, that when a county has a new high school, and it should be their flagship, and you know, I don't know I know that new labs and the vocational classes that you can offer and the updated vocational labs and all those type of things will enhance education as well as the technology. But like I said at Kiwanis, whatever, I've never heard of a new school building decrease in academics. And the thing that keeps me awake at night is my comfort level with the safety and security of our current high school. I'm comfortable with the other buildings, the one access in and buzzers on the door and that type of thing. But when you have 6, 7 different buildings, and it's built like a 1960s style school, the safety and security of kids is really concerns me, and it would anybody. And that style for the 60s and early 70s, we lived in a different era, Tom. And and now with what goes on is you've got to have a building that you can secure. We got 62 different doors at the high school. Well, I can go half mile in middle school. There's one way in, and every other door is locked. But there's 62 different doors. And a lot of people say, well, just lock all 62 doors. Well, the average junior in April gets called out of class 4 times a test. There's no way to lock that. And they're moving between building, and this goes on 7 periods a day and those type of things. So my comfort level with the safety and security of kids is not where it should be with that particular setup. And I don't know how to fix it with remodeling. I don't think you can, short of putting a dome over it, like I talked about in Kiwanis. And but I just think in terms of where we are with that facility, and we've gotten a lot of good out of that facility, and what it costs you for new construction. Of course, new construction is always cheaper than remodeling, and even if there was just a huge pool of money, we raised property taxes and we had all this money, I still don't know what you would have at the end of the product if you tried to renovate and widen the walls for the buildings and make the labs and make it handicap accessible and light it like it's supposed to be, and widen the walls in the vocational classrooms and the labs that aren't up to code. Because when you start remodeling, you don't get to pick and choose. Now our money's going to run out as we start. You probably use up to $3.5 million on roofs on the building and finishing the HVAC. So I get this question sometime. Well, we just did work on HVACs. I said, well, yeah, we did, but we didn't do all the buildings there, and I still have 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade over at Byron Elementary that's not done, and we did a couple over here. But in this part of Georgia, when an air conditioning system's out or a heater's out, you can't wait 5 years and do it. So, and again, we're still going to be in the building another 5 years. It's just one of those, we don't have to repair roofs and HVACs and do all those type of things and maintenance anyway. So it's it's a process. I like to think that I have a real good handle on buildings, construction, maintenance, those type of things. I like to think it's one of my forte. If I didn't think it was the best thing for Peach County and the best thing for the taxpayer, and ultimately what's right for kids, I wouldn't have ever brought it up. But they've been talking about it for years. I just don't think anybody, and probably a decision probably should have been made a long time before I got here and ESPLOST voted on or whatever. But we kind of got toward the end of the season and have to make some decisions in order to look after the taxpayer as well as kids. And ultimately, Tom, it's about what's right for kids. And in adults, we got to kind of step back sometimes and forget our political ambitions and those type things, and remember ultimately what we're trying to do is what's best for kids and their education and safety. And you don't get do-overs with education, so I think it's important to remember that. And I hope we'll do like 157 out of 159 counties do. The only 2 that don't is Burke County. They have Plant Vogel, and they're building another nuclear reactor there, first one in 40 years or whatever it is. And Towns has a loss, so they already have a penny, but they don't have a SPLOST, so they don't have 2 pennies. But there's 10 counties, including Houston, that keeps a penny on the dollar for the loss, and they do an ESPLOST for construction, so they do 2 pennies on the dollar. So we're not thinking up something new. We're trying to do the same thing Crawford and Dooley and Taylor and everybody else does to budget.
Dr. Fineran, we understand that the Peach County Schools have produced a video which is a summary of the public hearing that was held recently, a couple of weeks or so ago. And I was wondering if you would please introduce this video to us.
Sure, be glad to. We actually had some parents that did this and probably did a lot better job than I could have done. Some parents had put together, and it's actually a very good one, and it started on one of the school websites. And so I think at this point it's on all the individual school websites as well as the Peach County Schools website, and it's actually on also on a Facebook site.
And we'll want to put it on the chamber site
That
as
would
well
be
for
wonderful.
people to review.
And it just gives you a very 6-minute synopsis on what would happen if ESPLOST should pass and the new construction of the high school and that type of thing. So I think it's very informative if the listeners and watchers get a chance to view it.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Fineran, that was a very useful video and very informative. And do you have any last comments you would like to make about the video, or anything else you'd like to comment about?
Well, I appreciate the chamber and this opportunity to speak to you today, Tom. And the video, again, is work of parents and people that are interested in public schools. And I think if you haven't had it, if you didn't get a chance to finish watching or want to watch it again, it is available on all the individual school websites, as well as the Peach County website. And if you have any questions about anything, pick up the phone, give us a call, or call me, and I'll be happy to try to answer your questions. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you.
Well, we thank you so much for being with us. And for any of you that would like to see this video, you can also see it at peachchamber.com. And we thank you for watching this presentation, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.